Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and before we get started with this video, please like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, and we are going to get started with this video today. This video is going to be the possible vice presidential options for Joe Biden in the 2020 election and how that is going to affect the 2020 election, whether he picks someone from the Southwest, whether he picks someone from the Midwest, whether he picks someone from the Northwest. We're just going to see how that affects the electoral map, if it does at all. And we're just going to be going through that. I have a list of 7 vice presidential options here: Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Gretchen Whitmer, Tammy Baldwin, Catherine Cortez Masto, Elizabeth Warren, and Amy Klobuchar. There obviously are more options that he could pick, but I'm just going to be looking at this kind of short list of 7 of them as of now. We'll just go down the list here. First with Kamala Harris. I think Kamala Harris actually wouldn't do too much damage or too much help across the board. I think that she might help with the Midwest. She'll probably, first of all, this is the 2016 election results. I think in a normal prediction, I'd give all 3 of these states to Joe Biden as of now. I'd give even Florida to Joe Biden, maybe even Arizona. Things are looking very good for Joe Biden at this point. But if we're just going to base off the 2016 results, how that candidate would specifically help them in that situation, I think Kamala Harris would make Arizona a bit larger margin. She might make Arizona even closer, possibly even flip it. She'd probably make Colorado and New Mexico safe margins. Maybe not Colorado, but probably New Mexico. She might make Texas a bit closer, might make Georgia a bit closer. Might flip Florida, might make North Carolina a bit closer. She probably would push Virginia into the safe margin. The Rust Belt, I can't really tell how she would help or hurt. I don't think she would hurt too much, but it might be kind of to the detriment that she's kind of this coastal elite from California, which could be to the detriment of her when push comes to shove and the election comes up. But overall, her help would mainly be in the South, I think. The Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, these states may trend anyway. She might even end up losing a area like New Hampshire or something, because that's a very white area, and Joe Biden didn't do very well here. Kamala Harris isn't from here. So there's a lot of things to think about in this situation. She'd probably push Ohio into the safe margin, but again, there's many different things we have to look at here. And so going back to the next candidate, if we just go back to the results from 2016 here, we bring Texas back to likely margin, Georgia back to likely margin, and North Carolina back to lean margin, and Virginia finally back to a likely margin. The next person is Stacey Abrams. Now, Stacey Abrams was the gubernatorial candidate for the state of Georgia in 2018. She came very close to winning, but she did not win. But she is in the mix for a option for vice presidential pick. She has been, on live shows saying that she wants to be the vice president. Whether that'll help her or hurt her, I can't really tell, but she's probably on the short list. Whether she will be picked, I don't think she will be picked. Joe Biden said that he wants someone who is experienced. I don't think she is experienced enough at this point. Maybe a cabinet level position could help her, something like that. But if she is picked, I think that she would make Georgia very close, probably by tilt margin. People are saying, oh, it's just a fluke, it's just a one-time thing. No, Georgia is trending. Stacey Abrams didn't do as well in the rural areas, but that can be countered by the fact that Joe Biden does a bit better in rural areas than Hillary Clinton did, and then they can get the trends in the suburbs. So they can counteract both of each other by Stacey Abrams doing very well in the suburbs, not doing so well in the rural areas, Joe Biden being able to do well in both of them. That could help them in the state of Georgia. Whether it would flip, I'm not really sure about that. It would probably flip North Carolina, though. The black population would be turning out in droves, I think. And the next state is going to be the state of Arizona. I think Arizona will become a little bit closer, but probably wouldn't flip. Again, Stacey Abrams really doesn't help in this situation. The only 2 states I can really see it helping are Georgia, North Carolina, and maybe Florida and Miami-Dade and Broward County. But she's not very progressive in the sense of Bernie bro kind of progressive, so that wouldn't really help turning out those voters. But overall, I think it might flip North Carolina, might flip Georgia, but that's pretty much it. So if we go back to the regular map here, the next person is Gretchen Whitmer. Now, Gretchen Whitmer is an interesting one because it was a Fox News poll done from the state of Michigan that showed Joe Biden up by more without Gretchen Whitmer on the ticket. But I kind of question that poll due to the fact that Gretchen Whitmer is very popular at this point. She has around a 65%, I think, approval rating, which is a net 20 higher than Donald Trump, who's underwater in the state of Michigan. And so I think that picking her would only help, if anything. And I think that it would flip the state of Michigan. I think Joe Biden can flip the state of Michigan on his own without someone from that area, but with it, with her, I think it would flip. I think it would probably flip Pennsylvania as well. Wisconsin's another story, but I think just for purposes of this, you could put it in the tilt margin for her, although it probably would hurt in the Sun Belt. Probably would hurt in states like North Carolina having two white people on the ticket. I don't think Joe Biden is going to pick two white people. Thinking about it even more, I think that he's probably going to pick someone that's black, but we'll keep going with this list, or at least someone that's colored. So probably would hurt in states like North Carolina, might go to a likely margin, probably not, but it might go by the same margin. Georgia might barely be a lean margin. Texas might stay the same. Arizona might stay the same. And so Gretchen Whitmer doesn't help in many situations, but she probably would flip the Rust Belt, which is really, I mean, it's all they need. But if that's the way you want to go, you can go that way as well. The next person is Catherine Cortez Masto, the senator from the state of Nevada. I do think that she would push Nevada into a safe margin. I do think that, sure, this is a toss-up to say the least. Yeah, actually, I'll put it in a likely margin because 10 points is a big feat to overcome, given that you only won by around 3 points in 2016, if even that. And so I think that it would push it into a likely margin. I think that it would flip Arizona because Joe Biden has done very well amongst rural voters. He's done very well amongst suburban voters, but the area that he lacks is Latino voters. There's been some polls saying that Donald Trump could get up to 40% of the Latino vote. And that's an issue for Joe Biden if he cannot turn out the Latino vote. If he picks someone that is a Latino woman, it can turn out Latino voters that are already Democratic, or at least bring some of them back to the Democratic side that voted for Obama both times, maybe voted for Trump over Hillary, but are now saying that they could vote for Trump over Biden. That could bring a lot of those voters back. Would it help in states like Florida? Probably. Could flip the state of Florida. That's a big iffy. That, you're taking a big gamble on that. But with the Rust Belt, Joe Biden believes he can win Michigan on his own. In that situation, he gets very close. He can flip Michigan and Arizona, and he can flip Pennsylvania, then he's done it. But that's, again, it's a big iffy. Joe Biden has to believe that he can win the Rust Belt on his own if he's going to pick someone that's not from the Rust Belt. And that gets us to our next option, which is Elizabeth Warren. Now, this is the kind of option that you take if you are going with someone who is progressive. Now, Elizabeth Warren has pissed off a lot of progressive people because she didn't drop out earlier. She kind of took the nomination away from Bernie Sanders, and so she has pissed a lot of people off for that, especially progressives. But I do think that she wouldn't really help in many places at all. She might help in places like Colorado and New Mexico, maybe. But she'd probably hurt in Texas. She'd probably push Texas to a safe margin. She'd probably put Florida in a lean margin. Arizona even would stay in a lean margin. North Carolina. I mean, she cannot turn out black voters to save her life. And Joe Biden can, but that might be counteracted by the fact that you're with someone who doesn't really have the same kind of thing. She has a very elitist feel, being from the state of Massachusetts. It'd probably push New Hampshire into a lean margin, to be honest, because it is like the sister state, similar to how John Kerry won it in 2004, but Al Gore lost it in 2000. I think Nevada could even flip in that situation. While there are a lot of Latino votes, if there's nothing that Joe Biden can do to turn out the Latino votes, he's going to lose the state. That's a very liberal state, and while they might like Elizabeth Warren, that's very hard to tell at this point. But now we got to move a lot of things back because I think that Donald Trump might even gain if Elizabeth Warren is the nominee. And there's a lot of room for error in this. It could go many ways, but at this point, that's how I'd say this would go. If we just move the map back, the final person we're going to be talking about is Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota. And an interesting thing about Amy Klobuchar won by more in Minnesota than Elizabeth Warren did in Massachusetts, which is a pretty big feat considering that Minnesota is technically a swing state and Massachusetts is anything but a swing state. And so if you're going to look at the margins, Amy Klobuchar would probably win Minnesota by a likely margin, if not a safe margin. I honestly think that it might flip Wisconsin, but there are a lot of Bernie voters there. It is a state Bernie did do very well in 2016. A lot of white working class voters who were legacy Dems might turn over to the Republican side. Some might come back, but it's very hard to tell. I do think that Michigan would flip, though, and Pennsylvania is a big iffy again. I do think that she wouldn't do very well in the Sun Belt. She'd probably make North Carolina a likely margin, of Florida even a lean margin. Texas might even be a safe margin, and Arizona would stay at a lean margin. There's a lot of ways this could go bad for the Democrats. But if we just move this all back here, in the end, I think that Amy Klobuchar, you're not really taking a gamble by picking someone who's a moderate, who's kind of a slap in the face to the Bernie bros and the progressives, but it could help you win the Midwest, and that's really all you need. It's really all you want to have to win. But looking at the map here, there's many opportunities for Democrats to win. I believe that the best opportunity for Joe Biden is probably Kamala Harris because she doesn't hurt anywhere and she doesn't help anywhere majorly. She doesn't hurt anywhere majorly. She doesn't help anywhere majorly. And so everyone else pretty much hurts somewhere. Tammy Baldwin might hurt in the Sun Belt. Catherine Cortez Masto might hurt in the Rust Belt. Stacey Abrams might hurt everywhere, except for Georgia and North Carolina. Amy Klobuchar might hurt in the Sun Belt. And I do think that Kamala Harris doesn't really do either of those factors, and that's someone that you kind of want to have. And I think that that's probably who Joe Biden will end up picking. She is a very well-known figure by this point anyway. But yeah, this is the map from 2016. How it could change depends on his vice presidential pick. I've just talked about some of these vice presidential picks. Who do you think will be the vice president, and how do you think that'll change the 2020 election? So thank you all for watching this video. Please like and subscribe as always. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, and I will see you guys later.